After a pretty contentious Senate nomination battle this summer, where you initially said that you would run for the Senate seat, you decided to run for your delegate seat in Cecil County. Why the decision to run for delegate and not try to go up to the Senate?
Well, two things play into it. Right now the Republican Party could not be any more splintered than it is. Why feed into that and create more dissension amongst the Republicans? We have a target that we should all be aimed at, and that's progressive socialism and what it's doing to Maryland. I also think that when I look at it, I'm most effective staying in the House of Delegates right now because I am pretty well allowed to do a lot of things that I wouldn't possibly be allowed to do if I went to the Senate.
Like what? Like tell us.
I sit on Judiciary Committee, and so there I'm in the back room. There's 10 Democrats and me in the back room. We help get a lot of bad bills killed before they ever get out, and we're able to make sure that good bills do get out and to amend them. So it's a pretty strong position to be in the back room with the Judiciary Committee. I'm also the only subcommittee Republican. I'm a vice chair of the Juvenile Subcommittee, I think, in either house. So that's something that you just don't want to throw away. And being on the AELR committee, which is a very powerful committee.
What committee is that? The
Administrative, Executive, Legislative Review. You write laws 3 months out of the year, but you write legislation has to have regulations, and those regulations are written 9 months out of the year. So as the regulations are written, if they're overly broad or they're under-inclusive of what the legislation was, then they put out an emergency piece of legislation. They try to put out a regulation. We can raise our hand, demand a hearing on it, and try to modify that or change it. We've been effective at least twice this year on changing things that they tried to push through by calling a hearing and demanding a hearing. I just was the only one who demanded a hearing on the implementation of the mathematics portion of the Common Core and demanded that we come and have a hearing on that. We were able to put out for the public how bad that is, and hopefully we're going to be able to make some changes to that before it gets implemented. So they're very powerful positions, and I'm able to get bills passed, and working across party lines, probably 3 bills a year the last few years I've been able to get passed, and working some very significant legislation by reaching across party lines. We were able to cut down the infant mortality rate by 23% with a bill that I worked with Delegate Heather Missouri. And so there's a very liberal legislator and a very conservative legislator being able to work together to get something done.
Running against you in the Republican primary for Cecil County right now is you and who else?
Well, I know there are at least 3 right now. I just heard that Councilman McCarthy is in. I know there was a former state police officer, and I don't know if he's still a state trooper, who was in the race, and then there was one other person. And I frankly just haven't taken the time to learn all of their names or their backgrounds yet because I've been focused on the job down here and trying to get things done.
Where do you stand on a minimum wage this year?
Absolutely against government getting involved at all. I'm a libertarian, and government should stay out. If a business has $1,000 and they got 10 employees, each employee gets $100 a week. You don't just create another $100 out of the air when you say everybody gets $110. Somebody gets fired. So it doesn't help the individuals to say we're going to. And this. When they come and say, the other day the teachers came for us, we have students who have 2 parents working minimum wage jobs. I said, show me one. Show me one family that has 2 parents working a minimum wage job. We went looking for the minimum wage jobs. Couldn't find them. McDonald's is paying more than the minimum wage. And the minimum wage is there not for the families who have children. If you have that, then you have a problem. You're over-regulating business, you're overtaxing business, and you're doing things to inhibit the growth. Government doesn't create jobs. Government doesn't create, to hear the theory, what O'Malley's theory is that if you give more money to the people, they're going to then be able to go out to these businesses and spend that money. But they doesn't realize that the product's going to be more expensive, people are going to be unemployed, and businesses are going to leave the state. That's what happens when you mess with the minimum wage.
Where do you stand on the marijuana legalization bill?
I'm not for the legalization. We were for the medical use of marijuana, and I worked on that, and now they're trying to work on how they're going to do it. I'm for the 10th Amendment right now. Look at what the states are doing in Washington State. Watch what they're doing in Seattle, Washington, Denver, Colorado. Colorado of the two that have legalized it. See what works and what doesn't work. And then right now, I don't have a problem with, and I did join in, decriminalize it. Treat it as a health issue and take away the criminal aspect. Because all the police officers that come into us and say they spent their entire careers fighting this say it was a lost war. You can open up those jail cells for people who are rapists, murderers, who are arsonists. You can put violent criminals away, and those who were using marijuana, give them a ticket, send them for, health concerns if you think that there's a health concern. But I don't think that they should be criminalized, and so I think it's a way of reducing the cost that we're spending on a fight that we're not going to win.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I'm going to continue to do everything that I've been doing if I get reelected to the House, and I'm going to fight for the Second Amendment. You'll find nobody who's a more staunch advocate on the Second Amendment or more knowledgeable about it in the state of Maryland. I'm leading the charge on the Common Core, and I'm going to lead the charge on making sure that we reduce taxes and protect the Eastern Shore's way of life, and that we have a heritage that needs to be protected. It's not Montgomery County, Baltimore City, or Montgomery County, and so I'm going to do everything I can to stand up. When you send somebody down here, what you want is somebody who's going to put their toes on the line and stand up here and argue and fight the position, even when it's a losing position. You don't want somebody who's just going to come down here and toe the line. You need to come down here and fight and be worth 10 people and stand up and work hard. And I've done that, and I'll put up my record and what I've been able to do against anybody else, and I'll continue to do that if I'm reelected.